So let's jump right in. Why is it important to have a bedtime routine? Well, to answer this question, we first need to understand how sleep works. The switch between sleep and wake is controlled by two processes, a homeostatic process and a circadian process. Circadian means about a day and refers to the typical pattern of wakefulness and sleep that takes about 24 hours. The homeostatic process tracks how long we've been awake, and during this time, certain chemicals build up in our brain and body and contribute to feelings of sleepiness. But that's not all. The circadian process is a timekeeping process. It's controlled by an internal biological clock. This is a physical clock that resides in the deep center of our brain and sends signals to every cell in our body, telling us when it's time to be awake and time to get to sleep. This timekeeping mechanism gives us a first clue as to why a good bedtime routine is important, because both of these processes can be partially overridden by our behaviour. We might be tempted to work against our biological clock to stay up late watching TV or go to a party, but keeping our behaviour in sync with this internal rhythm is key to getting a good night's sleep. Our internal biological clock has a very predictable pattern which governs the regulation of all physiological rhythms: hormonal, digestive, respiratory, cardiovascular, immune, and no surprise, sleep. All of these processes work to a clock. By adjusting our behaviour to be in sync with this clock, we give our brains an external cue for bedtime, which entrains our internal rhythm to our behaviour. It's perhaps no surprise then that it's important to maintain a consistent bedtime. Identify the time of the evening that you feel most sleepy, time when you fall asleep quickly, say within about 15 minutes. This is your optimum sleep window. It might take you a few nights to identify when your sleep window is, but once you've identified it, stick to it. You might be tempted to stay up late to watch one more episode of your favourite TV show, but I urge you to listen to the ticking of your internal clock. Keep your bedtime consistent so that your brain knows when it's time to start the physiological process of getting to sleep. Doing this regularly will allow your brain to anticipate the timing of sleep so that it becomes without effort. But also importantly is getting up at a consistent time. The mechanisms governing waking up in the morning also require regularity. But waking up at the same time each day also helps your homeostatic process build at a consistent rate each day. Having that weekend lie-in will likely shift your weekend bedtime later, such that when it gets to Sunday night, you don't get to sleep until late, consequently meaning that Monday morning you haven't had the optimal time at night to get your required amount of sleep. So your sleep time on free days ideally needs to match that of the sleep time on work days. Your brain expects this consistency, and it can go haywire when the rhythm is broken.